Now I turn to the fifth and final speaker for the proposition in tonight's debate to conclude the argument for the proposition, Ciara Swail.
So, the Holocaust didn't happen. Hitler was great and Trump won the election. All views that, according to the opposition, Queens should be forced to give a platform to. You may have accused me of using extreme examples, and by that you would be right. But it is in the extremes that the opposition argument falls apart. Do not get me wrong. I'm not for 1 minute insinuating that the opposition supports these arguments or finds them valid in any way. But what I'm saying is that the debate is this House would support no platforming. So the opposition must justify that we should absolutely never no platform someone. We can't just go, right, okay, I don't support no platforming except when this is the case. No, you have to support it or not to support it. And because believe it or not, there are many organisations that are not allowed to have a platform in the UK, namely terrorist organisations, including other ones that would all love to have our head on a pike. This is for many reasons. It limits the ability of the organisation to radicalise people. It limits their ability to recruit, among other things. And I don't think anyone would support people like them coming to speak at Queen's because A, it's illegal, and B, who in their right mind would want to give these nut jobs a platform? It's an extreme example, and I'm aware of that, but because of this motion, the opposition must justify this. I don't believe they have. Now, first of all, a bit of rebuttal. Now, we heard from Jamie Bryson of a big speech about who gets to decide who gets to know platform people. And I will respond to this in context of the university. A student-elected body that is democratically elected to lead the students. Now, Ella then went on to say, oh, but maybe these people don't represent my views. They can't choose for me. Well, in that logic, we shouldn't support our government because not everyone votes in elections. And also, we've heard this presupposition. We've been accused on our side of basically saying that everyone is too stupid to tell the difference. But I would argue that their presupposition is equally wrong because it presumes that every single person is able to distinguish between racist ideology and stuff that is actually factually accurate. Because words do have power. Words used by Donald Trump led to a woman's death and the insurrection against the Capitol. So to argue that this somehow doesn't have any impact on people, I think is wrong. Another argument has been made by the opposition tonight that universities should be the marketplace of ideas, where students should be challenged on their views, faced with different viewpoints, and be better educated as a result. Which is an idea I rather agree with. I am a member of a debating society after all. What I don't agree with is this idea that awful, horrendous viewpoints are requirements to achieve this. In order to demonstrate my point, I shall now all tell you the story of my first debate at this society that I attended, which was this House would support a united Ireland, probably one of the most contentious debates you could have in Northern Ireland. And I said to myself before it, oh God, this is going to be a mess. There's going to be sectarian arguments. There's going to be people there's going to be people making disingenuous arguments, and it's going to be an absolute mess. And I walked out of that debate being very surprised that I did not see any of that. I did not have to listen to a sectarian comment to be informed around an issue. I did not need the leaders of the new IRA that killed Lyra Mickey to come in and tell me about the history of British occupation. I did not need the people who put Martin McGuinness on put a picture of Martin McGuinness on a bonfire in order to tell me the issues about unionist identity being lost in United Ireland. And that's my point here. You can have contentious debates without having outright horrendous, horrific views. I have been part of this debating society for 4 years, and I have never once heard a racist comment. I have never once heard a sexist comment. And that's because there are rules we have in place to make sure that people feel welcome in this society. No, thank you. We have had many contentious issues. We've debated on abortion. We've debated on sex work. We've debated on everything. So I have been challenged on my views. I've listened to many people that I do not agree with. I have argued on sides that I do not agree with. And it hasn't been a requirement to have these awful, horrendous views being broadcast to everyone that will listen to it. Because I don't think it's worth giving a platform to someone who genuinely believes that the Holocaust didn't happen. Because you're wasting that platform on someone who can actually debate about the topic at hand and not about nonsense that next to no one believes. And now the final argument that I'm going to counter.
On that point?
No, thank you. Which has been made by the opposition tonight, is the notion that deplatforming removes the individual's right to free speech, and that somehow if we let minority organisations have the right to not give their platform to anyone who wants it, then that will lead us to some Orwellian dystopia where no one is allowed to say anything anymore and that the right will be silenced. That a snowflake like me should defend the right to the freedom of speech of even these heinous individuals, because someday it could be me that could be deplatformed. Now, to counter this argument, I'm going to basically tell a fact. Now, many guest speakers on the opposition side of the argument have told us about being deplatformed before. However, I know that all of the speakers on tonight's opposition are published authors. I also know that they have newspaper columns. The Literific themselves have chosen to give them a platform tonight. They have been able to express their freedom of speech at multiple occasions. Jamie Bryson is the editor of a monthly newsletter. Ella has basically created this association where you can debate controversial ideas, and no one has silenced them. They are still able to say their viewpoints. It's just not everyone has the obligation to hear it, because you cannot force me to read their articles. You cannot force me to buy their books, and you cannot force me to give a platform to anyone who wants it.
On that point?
No, thank you. Because there is a difference between the freedom of expression and the freedom to be heard. And they're very different things. I can say whatever I want. That is the freedom of expression. However, the freedom of being heard basically would make people have to listen to me, which is basically what the opposition are kind of claiming, because they are saying that if a university initially invites someone to speak and then changes their mind and doesn't want them to speak, then that university should be forced to still have them on, even though they don't want them on anymore. So, hence why I am on the proposition side tonight, because I cannot and will not support a side that basically means that people with horrendous views that should never be given the platform, and those who break the establishment's rules, as was the case with Trump, should be given a platform, because it would force businesses to give platforms to and hence be associated with these individuals when they don't want to be. I have also been witness to and participant in many debates that were informative, and that taught me about different worldviews. And I didn't have to listen to these horrendous views. These horrendous views are not a requirement to a great debate, as was suggested by the first member of the proposition. And third and finally, if someone has been deplatformed, they are still able to express their freedom of speech through organisations that will gladly have them, like the Literific tonight. So I urge you all to vote for the proposition tonight, and thank you very much.